You have hits for the following threatened or endangered species on your property. Bucket level indicator quit. And I got decent enough dirt. Oh, I gotta climb up the inside. Oh wow, man, I'm way off. All right, here's the big watering hole that I did on the cost share. We got water, baby. The first planting is starting to come up, but here's what I'm really after. This is the big cost share watering hole. Look at all this is gonna hold or not. Hey folks, if you live in Missouri and some other states and you're interested in seeing how to get paid to improve your land for wildlife, then this video is probably for you. Today's episode is going to cover what's called a DNR cost share program to improve your land for wildlife. We're going to go over the whole process today. Recently we did a very large cost share land management project here on our new Missouri farm, but today I'm going to just cover the wildlife pond aspect. So the state of Missouri paid us $500 in reimbursement to create a new wildlife pond where none existed before. That's what we're going to cover today. So if you think you might be interested, let's get into it. All right, here's a look at the actual documentation of the watering pond, aka wildlife pond, from the USDA. So here you got, their name, our county, the date. Let's go over the purpose here. Wildlife watering facilities, aka small ponds, are constructed to provide supplementary water sources for wildlife and shallow water habitat for amphibians and reptiles. They are built with a shallow depth and are not intended to support fish. All right, I'm headed out to dig a watering pond today. This is going to be a cost share program. $500 cost share you get for digging watering ponds to specs. Other species of wildlife need water from a surface source daily. A lack of water may decrease wildlife use in areas that otherwise have good habitat. I've been saying this for decades. I love making watering ponds. I love it, I love it, I love it. Anyways, I digress. Anecdotal accounts indicate that many historical sources of water, such as springs, seeps, and small streams, have dried up or disappeared over the last century, especially in the Ozarks. Watering ponds can help to restore water sources to an otherwise dry landscape. And then they go over the specifications here, on how big this thing has to be, the minimum size, the maximum size. It says they're typically not built in on a prominent drainage feature, although you do want to get a little bit of a runoff coming into it if you can, but they're talking like a major, like a creek, like a ditch, that's not where these are for. And I got decent enough dirt, so I'm loosening this up in here so I can compact it a little bit. That ain't bad dirt, except for them two rocks. Piles up here in all likelihood and bring the tractor out, but so be it. It's really rocky and dry. I wish we had moisture, but it is what it is. I think it'll still work. Instead, you should build them 50 to 100 feet horizontally off of the top of a ridge and only 6 to 12 feet lower in elevation. That means lower than the actual top of the ridge. In my video series, I documented it when I was out with the DNR guy. He said basically if you're on your ridge top, you want to walk down kind of where you're eyeballing, where you're looking at the top of the ridge. He said that's about where you want to put it because that's typically where the good clay starts ending. And then you start getting into the kind of the Rocky Mountains and the hillside, if you will. So they give you guidance on how to build it, on where to build it. And here's the aspects they're looking for. They should be placed a quarter mile apart, no closer than a quarter mile. They'll only pay you cost share basically if there's no water within a quarter mile. The drainage area should be 1 to 3 acres. That means the water above it, the water runoff, how much is draining into that vicinity. Minimum pool size is 150 square feet and maximum is 0.2 acres. Maximum depth is 6 feet. Minimum dam top width is 6 feet wide. Dam should have minimum of 3-to-1 side slopes. Pipe spillway should not be used. This is kind of all natural, no spillway. No more than 3 feet of water should be stored against the dam. Remember, these are primarily dugout structures, which that means, like, if you think of a bulldozer just going in and digging out, 4 or 5 foot deep and pushing it up, that's kind of the philosophy here. The top of the dam should be at least 1.5 feet above the grassed spillway. Typical for a pond, generally a big pond is 2 feet, but that's, again, this is just a small one. And then there's maintenance and management recommendations. Legumes may be added, basically like clovers, wildlife. So basically you kind of add a food plot to your pond dam. It's like a double whammy. You got brand new water, and then you add some good food. Fish should not be stocked. Woodland amphibians such as salamanders, frogs, and toads usually cannot reproduce in ponds stocked with fish. So part of it is the wildlife, but also the amphibians as well. Here, this is kind of their layman's terms of where you should locate a pond. And then here is the basic diagram of what your pond should look like. And then here's the actual contract, what it looks like. It talks about the landowner objective: increase the carrying capacity of his property for wildlife, while at the same time increase wildlife hunting and viewing opportunities. This will be accomplished by putting in a new permanent forest openings and or by establishing new watering holes. So this is kind of a joint form, but for this form it's the watering hole. Current resource description, describes your property in the Ozarks. Typical river hills, very steep ravines, and flat ridge tops. The area was likely logged years ago, which it was, leaving most of the ridge tops in a thick stand of small diameter hardwoods, which is not the greatest, but for wildlife it ain't all bad. Bucket level indicator quit or broken. Come on, really? Oh, I gotta climb up the inside. Oh wow, man, I'm way off. All right, now I got mostly cleanish dirt. I'm gonna just go and loosen and blade and loosen and blade and start pushing it. So like if you were building this with a dozer, this is what you'd be doing. And this is the better of the dirt. It's below most of the roots. Then they talk about the purposes of these wildlife programs for threatened and endangered species. You got the Indiana bat, and it talks about criteria with that. You got a gray bat, you got a northern long-eared bat, monarch butterfly, bald eagle, plains top minnow, and it talks about mitigation. So let me just go over this real quick. It's kind of interesting. You have hits for the following threatened or endangered species on your property. This does not mean that any of these species currently reside on your property, but that there is a chance. So if operating under the Missouri Department of Conservation Bat Habitat Conservation Plan, mitigation is as follows. So this is telling you what we might have to do. Your property does not reside within 5 miles of a priority hibernacula cave according to the HCB buffer, so no mitigation is necessary. Okay, interesting. If we were near a bat cave, literally we might have to do something different. Not sure. The gray bat, you are not doing any work directly along perennial stream. There should be little to no effect, no mitigation necessary. The northern long-eared bat, your property does not reside within 5 miles of a priority hibernacula cave according to the buffers, no mitigation. Monarch butterfly, no mitigation necessary. Bald eagle, no mitigation necessary if no evidence of nesting is occurring in the planned clearing location. So again, this is relating to both wildlife clearings, which I'll do another video on that, and also the wildlife ponds. The plains top minnow, never heard of it, no mitigation. Recommended improvement to existing cover, see attached management plan. We'll cover that quick. So here's the WWI, the Wildlife Watering Impoundment. Basically, it's a small pond. There's salamanders, frogs, toads. You don't want to stock it. All right, let's keep going on. Alright, this part's usually a little sketchy. The very, very back of the dam, and a dam that's not big enough to begin with. Alright, here's the after look. Kind of ugly, but man, this stuff is so hard and so rocky. Stay tuned for next rain. That was a rough project, I ain't gonna lie. My teeth got chattered out by that machine. Yeah, so the digging is so hard. I looked up there and you see that Kapper bolt. I lost the 2 nuts on there. Alright, I'm back at the watering hole project. Should be the last day today. Here's basically the instructions on how to dig. A note here on the top, being very careful not to break through the clay layer. So if you get too deep, I remember when I was digging this, you're gonna hit rocks. I mean, like individual rocks, which won't wreck it. But if you hit like a rock or a sandstone like shelf, then it may not hold water. So you want to try to keep it in above the clay layer. This is here, you can see the watering pond right here, this little yellow and black circle. That's the watering pond that's going to be in this location on one of our new clearings that we did this summer. Okay, so here you see the cost share, $500. So since we have our own equipment, I was able to do it. The dig, it was a really hard dig because we were in the middle of a drought and it took like 3 days of work. Not full days, but my days. Which anyways, it was a hard dig. So anyways, we got reimbursed the $500, and I'm going to show you an after look also of what that watering hole looks like recently. So it's a great program for landowners in Missouri. The land clearing was a huge success for us this year. Stay tuned to the channel for a full video on that. But that's the nuts and the bolts of it. And there's a lot of both state and federal cost share programs for all kinds of wildlife and farming practices, wildlife practices. Actually, they're trying to mitigate old farming practices. So if you buy a farm that was farmed in cash crops, you could be eligible for like conservation reserve program and other things to help take that land back to wildlife where it was maybe cash crop before. So thanks for joining us. If you enjoyed it, hit the like button. I hope to see you again. Thanks a lot.